Today on Old Folks Adventures, we're down here in southern Illinois, and we're actually in the small area of Cairo, Illinois. And a lot of people cover this on the decline, but we're going to cover it from the history side of things. This town was a very important town and still has a lot of history, and they're trying to work on. But right now, we're in the area of Fort Defiance, which is famously known because of the Civil War. But right now it's also known as where the Tier Trails comes through and also the Underground Railroad. We'll go up here and we'll look at where the Ohio and the Mississippi come together and then go from there. So we can see there, the barge is heading up the Mississippi River. You look across the way, that's where the Mississippi heads down the river. So he's heading up this way. And we come back around. This is the Ohio. And you can tell there's still barges along here. And you see the bridges going over to Kentucky right there. You can barely make out the bridge going across the Mississippi River over into Missouri. So this point and down here with southern Illinois with Cairo was where everything come together and then crossed over, and then eventually Highway 57 bypassed all this and kind of cut Cairo off. But we'll get to that more later. So right over there across from the Ohio River is Kentucky. Then Illinois, where we're standing at, was a free state. And then of course over here in this area is Missouri. It was a slave state. But the African Americans used to come across here and then they would go up into Cairo, which made this part of the Freedom Trail. With the Cherokee Removal Act, we've covered going across Illinois on the Trail of Tears, but a lot of them went by water, and they come down here in the winter of, I think, 1938. This river froze over, so did the Mississippi. A lot of them got stuck here. So what they would do is they'd bring the steamboat down, and then they would go up the Mississippi River to head on towards the west. So a lot of them come here and then went inland during the winter layover, and that's why this is part of the Trail of Tears. So Cairo has several interesting things about it as far as history. So Cairo, Illinois became its most important, as I said earlier, in 1861, and this was turned into a fort. And eventually Grant would come here as Brigadier General. So this whole area, if you look where our Jeep is the point of the Mississippi and the Ohio. But if you look, this whole area kind of wedges down, but this whole field right here where the bridge is, on back where the white barn is, all the way up into town, they would have started concentrating the Union troops and building up, and this would be supplies. So where the barge was, and the barge going up, this is where they would have docks and floating docks, and then in town to where they could bring supplies in. Cairo was already a major river port at that time frame for steamboats, so it just naturally fit. But they knew that this area here was a place that they could defend against the Confederates if Kentucky seceded. So this is where Grant started off his westernly campaign. And here in a minute, we'll go up and we'll look at some of the buildings that's associated with it. I forgot to mention earlier that it's also part of George Lewis Clark discovery. They laid over here as they come down the Mississippi and went back up. So we have that part too. So this is part of the Trail of Tears marker, talking about how they moved upriver and got supplies and hung over during the time that the river froze over. This marker here kind of talks about where the Mississippi and Ohio come together during the war, and you can see the Union ironclads, which were down here and then protecting the harbor. And we'll go to an interesting town just up the way here later on in another video that was involved in the ironclads. So we move closer to town. We're actually in the entrance, which is the visitor center, which happens to be closed right now. But if you look off behind me over here, that field is part of the field I pointed to earlier. That was all part of the camp. So if we look right over here, we got the bridge going over into Missouri, and then we come down this way and we have the start of the bridge going over into Kentucky. Let me get around here. You can see it coming off there. So this park, if you're coming through Cairo, can be kind of interesting to find, because if you miss the entrance, which is right down there, if you miss that entrance, you gotta go across the bridge and turn around and come back. Not that I've done that a couple times. The other thing you gotta watch out for to come down here to actually see the fort area is that it does flood, and they got barricades. There's been a couple times I've tried to get down here to see it, and it's been flooded. So kind of look at your water levels to find out whether or not you can actually go all the way down. What we're looking here is the Cairo Custom House. This is the building that General Grant made into his headquarters when the Civil War was started. And it's right off the main road. Right now it's kind of closed. I don't know if they're doing work on it, remodeling work on it, but it's closed up. I'm not even going to try to get it in here. So this marker here is dedicated to York the slave that went with Lewis and Clark on an expedition all the way across the United States. And when the corpse was honored, he received no recognition. So him being a black slave, he got pretty well knocked out of the record books. But there we go. It's a shame what we've done. So what we're looking at here is a was the Duncan cannon, donated by William Duncan from the Mobile and Ohio Railroad. The smoothbore was presented to the city of Cairo as a gift. The gun seen action on both sides of the Civil War at Fort Morgan and Mobile, Alabama. Ooh, I hate to get hit with one of them shells. These pine trees right here is about the coolest area we've been in this morning. It is quite muggy. It's overcast for rain, so she's been rather warm. For you more historical buffs, you'll know what this is, type of gun this is, but it's pretty neat. Sitting here at the customs office. Says it's a 5-inch, so there you go. So when you come through Cairo, you can see a lot of interesting old buildings. A lot of them are vacant, and this town, you could tell at one time, had a huge population and was rather rich, but as the railroad system come through and they no longer needed the barges like they did to transport, then railroad systems bypassed the town, then the highway bypassed the town, and it wasn't long that the town started dwindling. And we can't forget the 60s when we had the race riots in the town, and it's been in a steady decline since, because of all that. It's really a shame, because this town, I think, could be something. It's got a lot of history and they're trying to build on it, but they just haven't been able to. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed looking at Fort Defiance, Cairo, the custom area, and check out our website, www.opokes.com. I've got a River of Conflict series that covers a lot of this in more detail. And like and subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.